Hey guys, Trev from the Struggling Artist Podcast, and I want to talk to you real quick about Struggling Artist Record Club. The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
Hey, this is Rev from the Drowns, and if you still believe in rock and roll, then keep the dial set here at the Struggling Artist Podcast.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Everybody, and welcome to the Struggling Artist Turntable for August 2024. This is the the night from hell when it comes to technical problems. I am your host, Trev Allen. With me tonight, Jeff Bousquet. Chris Chavez, unfortunately, is in a power outage in Buffalo, New York. We've both, Jeff, and I both have had technical issues this evening, but we're here. Right?
It took us over an hour, but we're here.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, hey guys, I'm going to be ready early if you guys are. And now we're starting an hour later than the original time. So
Wild.
This is crazy. Yeah, okay. So we are here, and it is the Struggling Artist Turntable, as I said. Jeff, walk us through the round table format. What are we doing today?
This month our theme was, our X Factor was hip hop, just hip hop, because we just haven't had a lot of hip hop on the show lately.
Yes.
And I think we did a poll, right? And that was
and it won. It came down to yours and Chris's, and Chris ended up winning. I thought you had won, and then I forgot the ballots on Instagram, so I had to go get those.
So we're doing our local picks, and then we're doing hip hop for our X Factor.
Yeah,
this month,
and we kind of stayed within the realm for the most part for our local as well, like within the criteria.
Yeah, we did. So. We all kind of, except for Chris, but more on that later.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have stuff to say about it. Yeah, so it's been a month. Jeff, you haven't played your show yet. It's coming up in August, right? So we talked about
I'm playing
that.
a little birthday show. August 27th, Tuesday at the Jungle. It's an early show. Doors are at 6 p.m. Because it's a Tuesday. So you can come see some bands and then you can still get home early enough on a work night. It is myself, MK Naomi, and Powder Maker, who are from New York. Yeah. So come on out. It'll be fun.
Is Ken still drumming in MK Naomi?
He is. I believe he will be, at least right now, because Allie has a new baby, and Ken's been playing drums. Yeah, so it should be fun. Should be great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm gonna see if I'm working that day or not. I can't remember if I
come buy me some birthday tequila shots.
Yeah. What's your favorite tequila?
Espolón. I don't know if the Jungle has it, but beggars can't be choosers.
My favorite is Cazadores Blanco. It is so good. And if you shake it, shake it with ice, it goes down like water. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
that was like our shot we used to do on shift was the Cazadores.
I like Don Julio too.
Don Julio's very good.
I'm not that picky, but I just think Espolon's a great value for the price. It's not an expensive tequila, and it tastes delicious, in my opinion. So,
yeah, mine is that the smoother it goes down, the better I like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's awesome. I got to host my cousin Dan's podcast over at the Movie Cellar. So everyone should go check out the Movie Cellar podcast. I got to host his Free Fridays episode, and I had so much fun. I was so proud of the intro I did for it, because I start with his music, and then I do a record scratch, and then the struggling artist music comes in, and I'm talking shit while the intro's going on. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. And Dan was he was doing a fundraiser challenge out in the woods, kind of like Survivor. Like a Survivor type thing, but it goes over the span of a week. Unfortunately, he didn't win, but I think half the money he raised still goes to the charity of his choosing. So, and the other half goes to whoever won that charity. So that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah, I haven't listened yet, but I gotta listen.
It was fun. It's Free Fridays is just you recommend stuff that's on Tubi and free verse, you know what I mean? Nothing that's nothing on a paid subscription service. And then he plays an ad, and it's always the Record Club ad, and then he comes back in with some podcast recommendations too. So I got to do that. I had fun. I had fun with it. It was cool. It was cool to do.
Well, I as I suggested, I think you guys should all go do a live from episode and do a special live episode from the Banshee Labyrinth in Edinburgh in Scotland. You can literally be in a movie cellar where they show famously bad movies every Monday night.
That's awesome.
At this bar that's built into the catacombs.
That's so rad. That's
it's super rad. It was a lot of fun, and you can obviously drink. It's a bar, so it's really fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Dan wouldn't drink though. He is in recovery, but I would drink for him.
Yeah, there's still plenty of fun to go around.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I don't think I got anything else good. So I wanted to talk to Chris about we'll talk next month. We'll talk about it more, but he just launched a new podcast called 716 The Sound. He calls it the sister podcast to the struggling artist, and it's Buffalo based. Everything, all the artists he talks to is out in Buffalo. So yeah, it's cool. He rides hard for Buffalo for being someone who is like a transplant. You know what I mean? He rides hard for that city. So kudos to him for doing that. Everyone should check it out. 716 The Sound. New episodes drop on Fridays. And we'll talk more to him about it next month when he comes back, or today if he hops in. It'd be really cool if he hopped in, because I think we need his poetic.
I know. There's so much. I wrote down so many lyrics this month.
Oh, you did?
I wrote down a lot of specific lyrics that I want to mention. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right. Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get right into it with our locals. All right. We'll be right back. With our local picks. So Chris had won the X Factor, so he goes first. We're going to talk about his pick first. His local pick was Ismatic Guru, and the album is called 4 in Roman numerals. So I'm going to stay by I completely I didn't realize, I thought this was his hip hop pick, and I was really, the first time listening, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get what, I'm like, I guess there's a Neptunes thing kind of here, but I don't quite get it. And then I realized that this was not his hip hop pick. So I think the name works for a hip hop artist, though. I feel like Ismatic Guru would be an awesome hip hop name. It was very, very post punk with a lot of experimental stuff going on. I had there was some songs that kind of sounded had almost like an industrial music vibe to it, lot of loud, like it's weird when I think of industrial music. I think of like probably what metal should have been, right? So it's like just loud sounds that sound metallic almost. You know what I mean? It was good. It was a good album. I had to re-listen to it because like the first time around I was waiting for like this hip hop element, and I'm like, I don't get what he's doing here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, he rides so hard for Buffalo. He picked something that was totally left field for his hip hop pick. And then I realized it wasn't his hip hop pick. So
I think there's some rhythmic vocal elements in some of it, but
yes,
there's definitely
like
some hip hop influence for sure. But I just love when we have picks on the show and we all telepathically like write down the same thing because I wrote down it's a really interesting genre mashup between kind of funk and industrial and some fuzzy 90s spots in there. I think overall, like to me, this was a bit of a cacophony of stuff, which was really fun. And I wrote down like, this is, I think, one of the most would fall into the category of like the most experimental and like, I think honestly one of the most interesting picks we've ever had. I'm not including Aria's like Ambiguity Research Center record, which is
Thank you for bringing up the name of that because I forgot
like,
what it was called.
It was like an LSD torture session. Like it was, an MK Ultra.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, MK Ultra.
But besides that, this is like musically, I think one of the more experimental ones we've ever had. So this was super interesting. It was like way out of left field. It reminded me of a band. Some spots of it reminded me of a band when I was in high school that had a few people that I went to high school with. It was called Gershon Lifestyle, and it was an instrumental mostly band. There weren't any vocals in it, but we used to go watch them play live at like the Knights of Columbus Hall and stuff like that, and they had like some guitar riffs and like funky experimental like math rocky like parts and breakdowns and stuff like that that this reminded me of a little bit. So it was super fun. Yeah. I guess not something I'd listen to like daily for me, but it was just like, it's like nothing else I think we've had on the show.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I'll also say like, it's probably not something that I'm going to like listen to all the time. It would be something like I have to be in a very specific mood. I feel like this was like, it's very specific and like to a point where like, so if I was to pair this with like, I don't know, like a psychedelic or something, like it would not be fun. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that would be a fun psychedelic experience because there's just so much going on.
It's too manic for that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But it does have like, I do like it. And like I said, I would listen to it with like, like if I was in a specific mood to hear something that sounded like that. And I agree with you. Like this is probably the most experimental like rock thing we've had.
Yeah.
That actually like it still sounds good. It's just not something that I think I would gravitate towards all the time.
Agreed. Yeah.
So let's talk about your local pick next.
Sure. So quick backstory, because this always happens to me. I think one of the biggest things that happens to me when we do our picks every month is that I get option paralysis because I find so many cool, when I go just searching blindly on Bandcamp, it's like so awesome. Like it warms my heart that there are so many incredible, talented people making art, like making music from every corner of the planet Earth. Like just everywhere you could imagine, there are people on Bandcamp making music. And of course, it's subjective and objectively not all of it's going to be like what you might consider good or the next person might consider good or whatever. But like it's art and it's out there. And I think like I just
exercising creativity is a real thing.
I was like, I always get so overwhelmed and I always wind up with like 3 or 4 things I want to bring and then I have to pare them down. And I was trying too hard, I think, to find, I was like, I want to find some hip hop. But I love when hip hop does like a full band, at least live. Because when I was a sound engineer doing live sound, like one of my favorite things to do is like do a show with hip hop with a live band, which is kind of rare, unfortunately, at least in small local circles.
Right.
And I was like focusing on that too much. And then I realized I need to not focus on that. I just need to find like some good hip hop. And I found some great hip hop that we're going to talk about later. But I was thinking about like hip hop adjacent stuff. And I was thinking about this artist, Notebook P. His name is Patrick. He's local. He's from here in the Boston area. And he's performed at the Rockwell several times where I used to work. And I can't quite remember exactly what their entire stage setup was. But we've talked on the show. You've had Growler on your show from Thou Merciless Graves, and one of the things I really love about them is they always do a show. Like their shows are not just a concert where you go see a band. They curate a show. There's dancers, there's lighting, there's they tell a story with like performers doing burlesque and all kinds of stuff. And similarly, Notebook P, every time he would come and perform at the Rockwell, it was a show. He would hire a company to come and deck out the entire room with plants, these thick, lush jungle plants all around the stage, greenery and stones and like literally everything except a pond. Like, but they would put down like a fake grass, and they would put down like all these lighted candles and things around, and we would always do a really cool lighting scheme. Like I'd work with him and like do the colors that he would want and stuff like that. And then on stage, there was usually, I think at least one of them, there was a drummer and maybe a bassist. And then there also was tracks too. So it was a mixture of things. And his music is like, it's R&B. It's a little bit hip hop adjacent. It's definitely
I think it's
definitely
like,
counts as hip hop.
Yeah,
some of his tracks.
Today's
for sure.
day, especially like today's styles of hip hop, it floats in those. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he always put on an absolutely mind-blowing show. He's such a talented artist, and he's one of the sweetest, like nicest people that I've ever worked with that's come into the Rockwell. And it's like this really beautiful, like it evokes the same emotion in you that like a spoken word performance would, I feel like. But it's R&B. It's like soulful R&B, and it's like so awesome. So I just grabbed I was a little late getting my picks in because we thought we were going to do this several days before we actually recorded it. And so I just grabbed the single that he recently put out called Dusk. It's just a great R&B track. It's very the lyrics kind of pull on some local, references and things like that. Even the cover art is cool. It's like a parking sign at the beach type of thing, like a very much local style, like Nahant or Wollaston or Nantasket Beach parking sign. And I'm sorry, that was a really long spiel, but I just that's kind of where, like, what led me into bringing him this month. And I really love this artist. I think the R&B talent in Boston is pretty big, just like the hip hop talent is, and it's a little underrepresented sometimes, I feel like, or more of a better kept secret. So in certain circles. So yeah.
So I'll say right off the rip, this one didn't resonate with me. It's just not my style of music, which was fine. It's still well done. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still well put together. I think if I was to, like, I think given what you just explained, what he does, I probably would love to go to a show of his, and then I bet you it would feel different for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very like I had kind of chirped in, like, it's like that newer style of like R&B and hip hop that's out there. There's some, and that's fine. It's just not something that, like, it's just not something that my 43-year-old white ass is gonna like. It's just not for me. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna say anything bad about it because it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just something that I just didn't really hit with me. No, everything you described though is like something that, like, it's an experience, it sounds like. Yes,
I would highly recommend anybody to go out and check out a Notebook P show. He just he does exactly what Growler does with Thou Merciless Graves, just in a totally different way.
Right, that's awesome. Yeah.
In a totally different,
it's storytelling.
In a totally different community of people, in a different scene and a different genre of music. But like, he curates a show. And I always appreciated that so much. Like he like, it was kind of like he just wanted his shows to be an immersive experience and
That's
be
awesome.
like beautiful. And, and like, it was always just super enjoyable to be a part of it. It almost was kind of like, I'd watch some of the shows and I'd be like, I don't know if, like, I don't even know how lucrative this would be, because you have to spend all this money on like all this extra stuff. And he'd have, photographers and videographers there and like the set design and all that stuff. But it was just so worth it to watch it. So I was always super impressed. Yeah.
I'm going to say this too. Like, I was listening to our other picks and then this single like hopped in. So it's definitely a different vibe than everything else we had for our picks. You know what I'm saying? So that could have been another reason why it just didn't resonate with me. And I went to go try to listen to it today, but I don't have Spotify anymore and I couldn't find it anywhere else.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's important to mention for listeners too. It's not on, this one's not on Bandcamp. It was just available on Spotify. But
I'm sure I could have bought it off of like Apple Music or something, but like I couldn't find it on Amazon. I have 5 months free of Amazon Music right now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure.
And I couldn't find it there, and I
definitely
couldn't find it on Bandcamp. So, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to re-listen to it. And I think maybe like going into it, knowing what it was, I probably would have had a different experience with it,
Yeah.
But again, if I went from listening to some like grittier things to this, like it's going to be a different spin in your head,
It couldn't be further from what my original local pick was going to be, which I'm going to save for next month.
Awesome.
But yeah, I decided to kind of just stick with the hip hop adjacent for the local too. I just thought it was kind of covered all the bases as far as, stuff that's musically a little fuller than some of the basic like hip hop with just tracks, just beats.
Yeah. So speaking of, I stuck with the hip hop thing too for my local. And I went with M. Dot's latest record, Dazed of Greed, which is on vinyl, if anyone's interested. I think it's a double vinyl. This is something like growing up listening to rap and hip hop and stuff. This was like up my alley. It's gritty. It's got that gangster undertones to it. And like everything about it just reminded me of like the 90s, right? There was a lot of scratching in this record, which is awesome.
All the way like the mid 2000s too.
Yeah. So like it was a lot of scratching in here. The beats were like perfect for me. Like they were kind of faster. Like even the slower beats weren't as slow as normal. You know what I mean? Like everything was kind of sped up a little bit. I really liked it. I like his style. I dug this one. And like I had found, I think I was going to pick like the record before this. And then I said, let me see if there's something new. And like this had just dropped. So this came out, I believe, this year. The one, Dazed of Greed.
Days of Greed.
Yeah. So it's, again, this is a perfect example of like what I do like when it comes to hip hop. And I was definitely, I'm happy I brought it.
I was really happy you brought it too. This is a fantastic record. And I'm thrilled every time I get introduced to a new Boston artist, regardless of genre, but just, I'll just say like anything, especially like outside of the punk rock world now at this point, just because there's just so much talent and I've slept on so much of it, but, I love this record. It starts off that first song, not the intro track, but like the first full song with that guitar riff, that they're sampling that they're looping there. Like, and it's got this big anthemic sound. Like that first track made me feel like it was the scene of the end of a movie or the end of a TV show series, like that's like dramatic and kind of a little bit melancholy, a little bit bittersweet, like type of feel, Mm-hmm. And the whole record had a dense, exactly what you said too. Like I wrote down again, like when we're all on the same page, but like it had a dense, grittier sound. It was really more reminiscent for me of like mid 2000s. It remembered me like some of the stuff around like when the Blueprint came, the Jay-Z's The Blueprint came out, having like I feel like hip hop records at that time had a really kind of anthemic sound to them.
Yes. Yes.
You had like a lot of trumpets and like those, like I said, like the bluesy guitar, like jazzy bluesy guitar riffs. Everything had like energy to it. There was a bunch of like collaboration, which is, obviously very common and very popular in the hip hop genre. But there was a lot of really great collaboration on this record too. Track 5, I wrote down the lyrics on track 5. It's called Run Along. There's a lyric. It says, united we stand, divided we fall. A closed fist is stronger than an open hand. They'd rather you say, fuck that guy than that's my man. They don't use the word guy, but you get the idea. And it's just such a great lyric.
Doing this, united we stand, you see, divided we fall. And that's the main reason they try to divide us all. Cause the closed fist is stronger than the open hand. They'd rather you fuck that nigga instead of that's my man. And that's the way it's always been. Try to keep us swimming in the pool of sin. It's time to play the game to win.
We're going to talk about this afterwards too, but a couple of the other hip hop picks that we had this month were, I feel like a little more lo-fi beats. Mm-hmm. Like a mellower, like kind of like the newer, like lo-fi stream beats style of stuff that's very, very popular now that you have like playlists on Spotify of like study, relax beats and like lo-fi beats and stuff like that. Whereas the tracks were a lot denser and a lot musically more diverse, I think, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah,
So,
I can
great.
agree with that. I can agree with that. And like this one too, like I like it. I think it shows like how good this album is. That like I picked a different decade than you picked of a different decade of what it sounded like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which brings it all in together. I think that makes it more a much better album. You know what I mean? Than just something that pays homage to just one decade of music.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, man. Well, we got through our local picks. We did okay.
Pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got it. We got this. When we're gonna take a quick break. We'll come back with our X Factors, and we'll see you in a few.
See you on the other side.
We're back with our X Factors. This month we had the people have spoken, and hip hop was what we went with. Again, Chris isn't here to kind of get into it on why he picked that, but I think it had something to do with you had talked about hip hop last month's episode, and I think that kind of just sparked the interest for Chris.
Yeah, I think we had talked, we mentioned in last month's episode how we've talked about hip hop several times and how we failed to have enough of it on the show. But when we've had it, we've had like some really great stuff. So
yeah,
we just kind of came back to it.
Yeah. And then like, we had voted and we had put the polls out there and and Chris won. You came very close. Yours, I don't even remember what your pick was at this point, but I don't remember my pick either. I don't even remember my pick.
Yeah.
So I think mine was like mental health, and everyone's like, "No, we're sick of you talking about mental health." So
it's basically just emo.
Well, we could have did like Off With Our Heads or anything that really, or even like a different direction with a different genre. But anyway, yeah. So Chris's first pick out of Buffalo, New York. This one is a tough one. It's third. But it's spelled TH period. Roman numeral for 3. Yeah, I period RD. And the album is 3. Just the number 3. So it was
Long Live the Queen.
Oh, is it? Did I get that wrong?
Yeah.
I just saw his. You know what? I must have looked at it wrong. I'm sorry. What was the name of the record?
Long Live the Queen.
Long Live the Queen. Apologies. So this one I thought was pretty interesting because it was like, it's like conscious hip hop with grit added to it. The lo-fi beats, like honestly, like the beats reminded me of like Mos Def or Q-Tip, their style of beats that they use. Very good flow within every song. I was digging it. It kind of reminded me of like, if you take like, so there was a hip hop artist that came out called Cannabis in the 90s, and he would always just say, "Can I bus?" was kind of like how he would say it, but it was very much his style. It was kind of like, you got a chip on your shoulder kind of hip hop, you know what I mean? Like he had a chip on his shoulder, and this is, I'm talking about Cannabis now. His problem was he tried to battle with LL Cool J and got tore up.
I mean, that's...
that was like, and he kind of like, he came and went pretty quick as far as, you know, as from back where I can remember.
Don't be starting feuds with people, man.
Yeah, especially LL Cool J, because he was like one of the best like battle rappers.
Especially LL Cool J in the 90s and in the hip hop scene. Like,
I dug this one a lot. I thought it had really good. Again, the beats reminded me of like a specific era of 90s hip hop. And he had a lot of sampling in this one that worked very well. It was very, like, sometimes you can do too much, sometimes you can put it in the wrong spots. I think Third did a really good job with what they were sampling on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one had some touches of both like the lo-fi beat style tracks with like also some like jazzy kind of backing tracks that I really dug. Overall, I think it had a little bit of a mellower. It was a little mellower sound than both of your picks were. In my opinion. But it was like definitely really, really enjoyable. It had like some really raw kind of politically charged lyrics throughout it, and I thought it was really great. I thought it was a really nice mixture. One thing that I also wanted to mention too is that I feel like there's definitely a big trend right now of what's kind of, and it's actually been called this but mumble rap, which has a very specific type of rhythmic style to it that is, I feel like, much more of a recent genre evolution, like over the past 5 to 10 years, and like really kind of popularized by like Lil Jon and like artists like that, like Lil Jon, Lil Wayne, and I'll just say it, like, objectively, it's not for me. I don't care for it. They actually did a bit on SNL a few months ago with Timothy Chalamet, where he's playing this like young 20-something mumble rapper that's like on a panel on a TV show with like hip hop legends from the 80s. And he literally is like, this new song I have is called Cling Clang Clang. And he's like, cling clang clang, cling clang clang. And it's just it's awful. Like, I don't care for it. And every single artist that we brought this month is not that. They are like, true to roots, authentic hip hop artists that just have a I think a much more attractive, appealing sound. I don't know.
Yeah, so I could the age old statement, there's no good music anymore, right? You could say that about the hip hop scene until you dive in, right? You dive into the hip hop community and you will find stuff like we brought this month. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you just have to search for it. And I always go back to there was a good stretch where I was like, this is no. And then I found one artist and I was like, oh, this is good. How come he only has singles? And then when he dropped his album and it was like the 10 singles plus like 6 more tracks. You know what I mean? So, so I mean, there are out there. You just have to go hunting for them and you got to know where to look and you know what I mean? And it's like,
you got to dig beneath the surface a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Boston that I like, and there's stuff that I'm like, but you know what? It's not for me. It's we're older. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I keep trying to like explain to people, especially with like the newer hardcore, like this post-hardcore era that we're in now. Like it's like almost like, cause like in the early, like late 80s, early 90s, post-hardcore became what nu metal is. You know what I mean? It started with like these bands that weren't like that weren't like Black Flag. You know what I'm saying? But they were doing this.
Off
yeah,
so
yeah. So there's evolutions of music everywhere, right?
Subgenres of
yeah.
subgenres.
So I mean, I'm not into like a lot of that stuff in the newer styles of anything, but I go hunting for it to find it because I know it's out there. And it doesn't always have to resonate with us, right? We've talked about that before. Like something could be good just because we don't like it. A big problem with people today is if they don't like something, they think it's trash, and it's like that. You can think that, but like, if everyone else likes it but you, you know what I mean? Like, people got to recognize that. But we do a good job.
Not even here. Everyone else but you, just an enough amount of people that there's a following, right? It means that it's resonating with somebody. So
right, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about in the very beginning of this episode. Was like, people creating art is what it's about,
right?
If that's now if someone is doing something and they don't want to like I don't know, improve their art, then that's a different story for a different conversation. But it's there. I think there's So I don't know. Chris's album, I kind of dug it. It was I liked it. I heard influences that I grew up liking, so I was cool with it. I want to say too that Third is very city proud. A lot of Buffalo stuff he talked about, and that's cool. I like when you rep your city hard. You know what I mean? Like, and that goes across the board, like with any kind of music or whatever. And
we've talked a lot on the show about how Buffalo has a really fierce scene in general, music wise and art wise, and like it's definitely a great scene that he's tapped into up there. So
yeah,
we love it. We're here for it.
For sure. Let's go with your X factor.
Yeah. So again, to go back to the option paralysis issue, I had dove into this with I was trying too hard to find. I was like, I want to find hip hop that's got a full band music to it, and I found like 3 or 4 different artists that were not that had your kind of standard sampled tracks and beats and stuff like that, but that were so awesome. And I stumbled on this one artist that I was 100% gonna bring to the round table called Essa. And he is from London. Like, he was like based out of central London, and like an English hip hop artist, which was like, it's just wild. You hear somebody rapping and you hear like an English, like a British accent. And I was just like, this is like wild that they're, like you just don't, cause it's just, stupid regional ignorance, but you don't think about it. You don't think about like, there's hip hop artists in England, you know what I mean? But of course there are. It's a bustling metropolitan city with lots of artists of all different genres, But I was listening to that guy, and his tracks were great. And then at the suggestion thing, like I clicked on this artist that I actually wound up bringing in, who's called Mudmouth, and he spells it Mudmowth, Mudmouth. I really want it to be spelled with an F, like
Me too.
Mudmowth.
Yeah.
Mudmouth.
Yeah, I really wanted that too, to be honest with you.
And I bet you 10-1 that there was probably maybe another artist that already had that name, but it's this little 3-song EP called It's All Life, and it's fantastic. I can't say for sure because I'm getting old now and I feel like my ears are not good enough to always discern from organic recorded instruments versus like some of the software instrumentation that people have access to now.
Yeah.
But it starts off with this infectious like little piano riff, and it's this mellowy, jazzy,
very jazzy,
bluesy vibe, real like coffee house jazz vibes at the beginning of it. And this artist is from, at least he's listed on Bandcamp as being based out of Indonesia.
Yes.
And I loved this, fell in love with this. It's very genre blending. It's got funk, jazz. It's got some like kind of disco-y elements, like some parts of it. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is, it's like posi-core hip hop. It's very granola, earthy, kind of hit. I don't want to, dare I say hippie. I don't want to say hippie because this guy seems like a genuinely good, nice person.
Right.
But like, it seems like very, you know, very in touch with the vibes of Mother Earth kind of guy, very spiritual guy in that way. And I love it. The first 2 tracks are pretty mellow. The third one is a little bit more upbeat. That was my favorite one. It's called Lemon Tree. I wrote down lyrics from this one too that just like really stuck with me. Where the first track, It's All Life. He says, I won't be a puppet on a string. I won't be a man that won't cry or won't sing. And then he says, I love this. He says, I'm a sin-filled dude trying to do good, moving through the chaos like a Buddhist Jedi should. I loved that line. And then the third track, Lemon Tree, he says, I want to relive what the 90s did to my soul. And he says, I'm into chakras, poets, and rappers, chickpeas, and GoPro surfboard attachments, keeping track of the waves on the horizon. So when I pop up, I choose the right one. He says, like, before that, he says, like, don't talk to me about about politics and like, you know, like stuff like that. And it's so funny because it's kind of like a silly lyric, like a kind of a goofy lyric, but it literally tells me exactly, like, I'm like, I get exactly what you're saying about yourself, you know, like, it resonates with me personally very well. So yeah, this was an absolute winner all around. I was stoked on this record
this one was like, for me, it's definitely different because like it has like the structure, cadence, and like beat of like conscious rap stuff, like especially like more like
like spoken word almost.
Yeah. And but like it kind of like it stays away from the politics in a way, right? So but it's like you said, it's very earthy, like it's very, you know, zen like maybe?
Yeah, exactly. He's singing, he's rapping, he's singing a lot about healing, I think, on this record.
Right. So I wrote heavy jazz influenced conscious style rap. Everything you said. It had blues in there, it had funk, like it had a lot of different, it was pulling a lot of different influences to it. And it sounded good. It was very good. I felt like it got, and again, it's a 3-track EP, right? So like I felt like it started to gain momentum and then it just ends abruptly. And I was like, I wanted more, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like I feel like this could have been 3 songs that started off of like an LP, and it could have gotten like, it could like pick up momentum as it goes on. I think the that last track, Lemon Tree, is like the strongest track for me.
Yeah.
Because again, it's when it started really picking up momentum, and I was kind of like, okay, I get it, and I was getting into it. You know what I mean?
I think it also could have been like, could have used maybe a 4th track on there that was a little more mellow again to kind of round it out. I agree. It does end a little bit abruptly. It's a short, Lemon Tree's a shorter song, and it's got that upbeat tempo, and it just kind of ends.
Yeah. But again, I mean, if like I you know, that means I wanted more if I think it ended abruptly, right? So
yeah.
This was good. This was a good pick, dude. This is something I've never I've never heard anything like this with all these elements that are in there and what he's doing with them, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good one, dude. Good one. All right. So my pick, my X Factor is Miskeen Halim and Megalodon out of Dover, Delaware. I don't know much about Delaware hip hop, but I know I like this. And this was something that, you know, when you turn on, and I think I learned this little trick from you, like just turning on the Bandcamp app and there's stuff right there on the front page. I believe this was something on that front page, and the cover caught my eye, like that, like painting, like it's like a painting of a side view mirror, and there's like a fire on a house on fire in the background, or a barn or something.
Yeah, like you're driving away.
Yeah, and like I never even listened to it. I just like clicked on it, and then I was like, I'll come back to this. And then when I finally got back to it, I'm like, oh, this is hip hop. This is good. So it's been on my wish list forever. I forgot about it. And then when we were doing this, I went back and I was like, And I was like, oh, did Chris send me that? And that's why I think I had asked in our text message thread. I was like, Chris, did you send me this or use this? And he's like, no, I've never heard it. And I'm like, all right, so that's something that I found out in the wild, and I saved it for this instance, right?
Sick.
Going back to what I like for hip hop, this hits it, right? It's very on par with my local pick. It's great. I don't even have the name of this. Do you have the name of this album?
It's called Things Lost in the Fire.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is
I don't know why
I love that
didn't write
name.
it. Yeah. I forgot to write it on here, but yeah, and the title too, the title of the album cover, like it all just kind of fit together for me. So yeah, I mean, it's very on par with my local pick. It's gritty and raw, like I said. I really dug the art. If I had to compare what Delaware rap sounds like, it was very New York style hip hop, I believe. Lo-fi beats. Not as fast as like what I had for my local pick with M-Dot, but it was right on par with like that grit and like that gangster kind of right there on the cusp of like what gangster rap was. That was I like this one, dude. I like this one. I'm happy that I like saw a cover of something and said, let me save that for another day.
Yeah. Overall, of all of the like of our X Factor this month, I felt like this one was the one that was overall a little bit more mellow. But it still has these like really great moments of grittier hardcore rap in there.
Yeah.
The overall vibe of the backing tracks had a little bit more of that like lo-fi beat style, which was cool. It was like a really overall just kind of like I don't even know like how to describe it, but like it's not a mellow record in that like, you know, you just put it on in the background, but it's like it's got like an agreeable vibe in a way that I kind of jived with that I
it definitely has like the beat to it.
He's good at weaving back and forth between these like elements of energy and like also some kind of chill energy, and then like he's got a lot of progressive like socio-political lyrics and themes throughout it, and I also noticed he's got some really cool like funk and soul 70s era samples in a lot of the tracks that they use, which I was really digging that as well. So, I thought this was great. Didn't think of Dover, Delaware as I don't even think I've ever been there. I don't even know what it looks like, you know.
I've been there. I went there for a NASCAR race, so
I've driven through it maybe or past it on the way up and down, but it's just always great to find artists from different cities.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. I was pumped, and like I said, I had saved it a long time ago just because like I liked the artwork, and then when I first listened to it, I'm like, oh, this is hip hop, this is good, and I kept it in my wish list because I wanted it. I just didn't get it at that moment, and like now I do, and that's a good thing.
That's a good reminder for why like album art is actually very impactful and important, and why it's a shame that we don't have as much physical stuff on physical media, because in order to see that album art, you have to go on Bandcamp and find that record. But it draws people in, you know, whereas like if it's in a record store and people are flipping through, they'll see it and it'll draw them in, you know.
I've bought records that way before. Yeah. Like I've been like, you know, even when I was a kid, because you couldn't just like go sample a cassette tape. You know what I mean? To see if you liked it. You know, but
if you were lucky, you went into one of the Strawberries or the Sam Goodies that had the thing where you could scan the CD. And you could put the headphones on.
I lived in little towns. We didn't have that capability. But yeah, even as an adult though, I remember I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and I just stopped at like a pawn store, and I was going through their records, and I was like, oh, this one's crazy. It was called like, it was like Revenge of the Super Beast or something like that. And it was like a reggae album, and it was so good. I was so happy I had gotten it, you know, and it's just this wild looking cover. This was one of those, this is when I always talk about finding things in the wild, Jeff. This is what I mean. Stuff like this, you know?
I love it.
So
it's my favorite. I wish I just didn't get so overwhelmed when I find things in the wild, because I want to bring like 5 picks.
Everything. Yeah. Well, we can. When we do the end of year, you can bring them all. You know.
Yes, that's true.
So, all right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break. We get back. We're gonna We're gonna get out of here when we get back. All right. Well, Jeff, we're at the end of the road here. It's time to get out of here. Time to go home. Time to go to bed. Whatever. Show me the way to go home. We used to sing that at the bar I worked at. You know that song?
'Cause I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I mean, anyone who's ever watched Jaws.
True. That is true. I used to scream that at the top of my lungs so people would leave the bar when it was time to close. It beats like screaming at people. You know what I mean?
While you ring a big bell.
Yeah. Just annoy them so they leave, you know. This was good, man. We went through this pretty quick. I think we both had quite a bit to say. I think this went, you know, I think this was another successful turntable episode. What about you?
I thought it was as successful as it was going to be after an hour of setup.
Yeah, your dog is so adorable. I can't
just see his little feet.
Yeah,
and his tail.
He just had a birthday, and right, he just had his birthday.
Yes, he just turned 12. Yeah,
so adorable. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Whenever I see a dog or a cat, I just kind of get sidetracked. Yeah, this was good. I had a good time with this, and it you know, hopefully next month we can have everyone back and maybe more. All right, we'll see how that goes. We're not going to do a poll for next month because Chris isn't here to give us a pick, so we're going to skip that part of the ending. We're just going to get right to what our favorite. I'm not going to lie, my favorite album this month was my local pick. it was M. Dot. Mine was M. Dot Days Degrees. It's just so good. It's just so good.
Yeah, I really liked your local pick this month. I think I'm gonna toot my own horn and say my favorite was my own my X Factor pick.
Right on.
But M. Dot's came in a very close second. It was a great record.
See, Chris isn't here to keep our egos at bay. So we're No,
I've just been walking around. I've been walking the dog, blasting that M. Dot record in my headphones, like walking and just like imagining myself in the end of like some epic movie, like walking away like injured or something.
It definitely had like
that first track, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely has like a cinematic. I didn't even add that. It had like a cinematic vibe to it. Yeah. For sure. So, well, let's see. You got your show coming up again. You want to promote? Let's just promote it again on this end of it.
Tuesday, August 27th, which is my birthday, at the Jungle in Somerville, in Union Square. It is doors at 6 p.m. It's a free show. They take suggested donations at the Jungle, but the shows are free and it's early. So come out on a Tuesday night and have some drinks and then still be home and in bed by like 10:30.
Oh man, that's like my morning. That's my morning, 10 p.m. I don't have anything. I don't have anything this month to promote other than like check out what we have going on over the patreon.com/podcast TSA. We have a lot of cool things. We have 3 shows. We have 3 exclusive shows on Patreon. One is a weekly show. The other 2 kind of rotate every other week with each other. So it's like 1 week it's the Struggling Companion. The second week it's Chopping It Up with Chris Chavez and myself. There's a lot of cool. We have a lot of cool things going on over there. We have things in the works for events and everything else that we're gonna have coming up. And you know, you find out about it first over on Patreon. So check us out, patreon.com/podcast TSA. Also, if you are local and have nothing to do tonight being the day this drops, right? Over at Medford. What's the name of that? Deep Cuts in Medford. Deep Cuts in Medford is Trash Fest, which is it's a throwback to something that used to be put on at the Abbey Lounge back in the day. And Duck and Cover and the Downhalls put out a split called Trash Fest, and that is their record release show over there in Medford tonight. So I know C. Skidmore in the Damn Fine Band. Yep, is on that bill, and somebody
that would
else
be tonight, August 2nd at Deep.
Yes, August 2nd tonight. So head over there if you're local and you got nothing going on. That would be a good show. Unfortunately, I'll be stuck at work, so I can't go. But yeah, I guess that's it, man. Jeff, thanks for doing this. I know it was frustrating to get us here. But we got through it, man.
We're here.
We got through it. We're here. We're here for each other.
We will see you next month.
See ya.